again for a next episode of Road to Infinity War, and this one, I believe this is my fourth one, and it is on Thor. Now, I'm gonna be completely honest. Thor has not been my favorite Avenger, and it really has not been my favorite line of trilogy movies until Thor Ragnarok, because I think Thor Ragnarok was just awesome and funny and just a whole lot of fun and a big adrenaline rush. But for a while, because of this movie, I didn't really have that much of a respect for the Thor movies. I knew they were good movies. I loved them, but I feel like they always the more years passed by, they kept shifting down on my MCU ranking, or just as the scale went down and lower and lower. But then I sat down today and I watched Thor again, the first one, all the way through. And I gotta say, I don't know what I was thinking. This is an amazing... I think this is definitely one of the best origin story movies ever. I would agree. I guess I have to wait till I rewatch this one, but I will agree that this one, it probably is one of maybe my least favorite MCU movie. That doesn't mean that I hate it. It means that it's my least favorite out of all of them. But I think this one got shot up at least a couple good spots, because I really got to realize how awesome and amazing this movie really is. I would say, I'm gonna get the one bad thing out of the way. I feel like as a kid, I never really noticed how bad Natalie Portman and Chris Hemsworth chemistry was, but I think it's nothing due to Chris Hemsworth, because I think he's an amazing actor. I feel like it's just weird seeing Natalie Portman in a role that literally doesn't seem like it suits her that well. But either way, it's still ran pretty well. It's not like it dragged the movie at all. I feel like it actually was good, but I feel like it wasn't as great, or not great. It wasn't as good as I remembered it being when I was a kid. But memories. I'm going to get at memories real quick. Rewatching this movie, I had a lot of memories come back in, because I think one of my favorite memories actually from watching this movie, the first time I walked out, if I can grab it, was, I believe I was 9, and one of my very first things I ever made was this little tiny Thor hammer, and I actually cut up Jenga block. I put Jenga blocks into it, so it actually has a little bit of weight to it, and it's so crazy thinking that I still have this. I think it's 7 years later, and it's so awesome that I still have this. And it's so cool because I specifically remember watching this movie and then coming home and then just straight up just working. And it's I wanted a Thor hammer. I wanted a Mjolnir. But I just love this. I feel like this is definitely one of the best origin stories that we've ever received, especially having it so early on. I love the parallels of... I feel like there's a lot of fish out of water stories, but I feel like this really did it before Wonder Woman did, which is so great. Having him in the present day in New Mexico, which is great because Chris Hemsworth has such great comedic time.
This drink, I like it.
I know, it's great, right?
Another!
Sorry, Izzy, little accident.
I need a horse.
We don't have horses, just dogs, cats, birds.
And give me one of those large enough to ride.
With another, I need a horse. A lot of that stuff is so perfectly timed, and I think that's because he's such a great comedic actor as well, which they really showcase in Ragnarok. But for this one, you got to see. I remember just watching it today, and I remember watching oh, this looks so beautiful. This is awesome. I'm just saying, I'm hearing all these references, I'm watching it for the very first time, but having all this prior, next to knowledge. That's a better word. But I feel like this movie has one of the best villain portrayals, and in fact, his very first portrayal with Tom Hiddleston as Loki. And oh my God, this character in itself is amazing, but Tom Hiddleston, what he's able to do with this character is absolutely insane. One of my favorite scenes, still to this day, I remember watching when I was a kid, and I remember thinking, wow, that's a good actor, is when he's standing face to face with Anthony Hopkins, and that's Anthony Hopkins. He's telling him, he's like, tell me, and he's he wants to know, what am I? And so great, so good, and he's you never want a frost giant sitting on the throne of Asgard. So rich and so good, and you really, and knowing where his character leads, and you get to see the very beginnings of his like royalty and his destined greatness. I absolutely loved it. I think he killed it in this movie. Chris Hemsworth killed it in this movie also. His first time playing Thor. I think one of my favorite portrayals of this is that Thor is cocky. He's hot headed. He's really almost like in a Tony Stark kind of way. Like, I am the greatest. I am the one who should be king. And then like I still one of the greatest things ever is like you are unworthy. Like I will cast you out. Like still one of the best learning curves from I think any superhero movie ever is finally seeing him become worthy. And then when he fights a destroyer, it's so great. I absolutely love this. As far as MCU like tie-ins as well, because like watching this, like having the whole MCU come out right now, and like I love seeing Coulson again. I love seeing him in movies because I haven't really watched this movie in a while. So like I'm so used to him being on Shield and like having him never reference the movies, but having seen him pop up, it's so cool. I remember there was a Hulk reference in there by Eric Selvig, and then what else is in there? Yeah, I totally forgot that Hawkeye was a. This is the first time I ever saw Hawkeye. I completely forgot about that. Because when I saw that, I was like, because when they were going through the weapons and he grabs the bow, I was like, that's right, Hawkeye did get introduced in this movie. Like, he didn't get as much screen time as Black Widow, but I still remember that. Made me remember that. I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like, that's really cool because you really get to see the scenes of the Avengers. And then the post-credit scene when you see Nick Fury, and then talking to Eric Selvig and the whole introduction of Shield really becoming a big like standpoint in the Marvel Universe, even more after Iron Man 2. Just so good, like so good. I really don't know what I was thinking. I cannot believe that I really thought that this movie was maybe in the lower tier of like superhero origin story movies, because I feel like we have seen a lot of them. And I think if you look at this movie and you think of it as one of the very first, it's so good and it's so rich. The characters are great, and every movie is as great as this villain, and I feel like Thor movies have been always consistent on Loki, which is one of the best things about this movie. And Chris Hemsworth always kills it every single time. Alright, that's my review for Thor. Stay tuned for Captain America, the First Avenger. I cannot believe that I'm almost all the way done through phase 1 already, so I'll see you guys next time. Mjolnir. I think, okay, that's how you probably say it.